What's going on, guys? This is VinylicPuma, back with another Fallout 4 countdown video, and today I wanted to go over 10 of what I think are amongst some of the most fun and most entertaining guns and weapons to use in Fallout 4 and some of its DLC. Now, obviously, and before we start, this video is going to be subjective. However, I think you'll find that many of my picks are indeed really fun weapons to use. Also, I'm trying to strike a balance here as far as weapon types are concerned, as otherwise, this list might only consist of heavy weapons, which tend to be my personal preference. But without further ado, these are my top 10 most fun and most entertaining guns and weapons in Fallout 4, starting now. Number 10. The Deliverer Pistol. As far as pistols go, I think the Deliverer is one of the more fun ones to use. This is partly because it's largely inspired by the real-world Walter PPK pistol, which is a German-made pistol that frequently appears in James Bond films and also appeared in GoldenEye 007 for the N64, and that's a big reason why I like it. As far as how it performs, the Deliverer is just a really good gun that goes great with VATS-style builds thanks to its inherent VATS Enhanced effect, which allows you to easily rack up a bunch of shots in VATS. However, it's also a pretty good non-VATS weapon as well, thanks to it having a really nice feeling trigger response, as well as its ability to be suppressed, which should make the Deliverer an awesome weapon for dealing with the vast majority of the enemies that you would ever come across. All in all, the Deliverer is a pretty fun weapon to use in Fallout 4 and should be something you should keep an eye out for if you plan on doing a pistol build. If you want it, be sure to take on the Tradecraft quest for the Railroad, and during that quest, Deacon should just give the Deliverer to you. Number 9. The Paddle Ball. While it's not necessarily the most practical weapon due to its range and how difficult it can be to get the ammo, the Paddle Ball can be a fun and even fairly powerful weapon to use. This is because the weaponized Nuka-Cola variants of the Paddle Ball always seem to deal a specific amount of damage that ignores the enemy's damage resistance. On the low end, you have the Nuka-Cola variant, which should deal a measly 10 damage, the Cherry variant, which should deal about 25 damage, and finally, you have the Quantum variant, which is the most useful and deals about 50 damage. Being able to deal about 50 damage while ignoring damage resistance can make short work of a lot of Fallout 4's enemies, as they usually have anywhere between 100 to 300 health. Plus, if you play on survival mode, you'll be happy to know that the paddle ball string ammo is incredibly light, clocking in at just 0.014 pounds for one shot, which puts it about on par with 38 caliber ammo. Ultimately, if you want the paddle ball weapon, be sure to go to the Nuka Town arcade and you can purchase it for about 500 Nuka-Cade tickets. You can also do the same with the paddle ball string ammo that the paddle ball requires. Number 8. Automatics with the Kneecapper effect. In general, automatics are fun with a wide variety of different legendary effects. However, I think automatics are really fun when paired with the Kneecapper effect. Not only are you getting the damage potential that an automatic provides along with any compatible perks, but you're getting this with an effect that has a 20% chance of crippling an enemy's legs, which is incredibly useful for dealing with enemy creatures. In fact, it's kind of hilarious to watch things like Deathclaws, legendary Mirelurks, or Yao Guai just be easily and totally immobilized thanks to the Kneecapper effect. What also makes all of this work well is the high attack speed and ranged damage that automatic weapons can inflict. Being able to attack more times in 1 second makes crippling an enemy creature's limbs way easier, and being able to deal that damage at range prevents certain creatures like Deathclaws from picking you up and or staggering you with their attacks. Now, I suppose it's worth mentioning that the Kneecapper effect can appear on a number of different weapons. However, I think my favorite is probably on an automatic pipe rifle due to its better range than something like a flamer, and its relatively cheap and common ammo. If you want something like this, your best bet is to try and get lucky and try to get one by farming legendary enemies, but I suppose if you're on PC, you could just give yourself one with console commands. Number 7. The Ripper. As far as melee weapons go, I think the Ripper is definitely one of the more fun and unique ones to use. This mostly comes down to its really fast attack speed and its quasi-chainsaw-like potential, which just seems to make a lot of enemies melt, especially if you've acquired the proper perks and invested heavily in strength. Provided you manage to acquire some legendary variants of the Ripper, like one with a wounding effect, you'll find that the Ripper can be even more powerful due to the wounding effect's impressive damage stacking potential. The only real issues with the Ripper that I can think of involve its lousy power attack and its low range. But I think I'm able to live with that, provided you have the extended customization, which does seem to improve the Ripper's range as well as adding a bleed damage component. If you ask me, the Ripper is an awesome and fun weapon to use, and if you're looking for one, be sure to buy one from Arturo and Diamond City depending on your level. Alternatively, if you want a guaranteed spawn location, you can also travel to the West Everett's Estates and you can get the Ripper that's located in the shack next to a yellow house that contains the entrance to the backyard bunker. Number 6. Automatics with the Staggering effect. So, the Staggering effect in general is something that often gets skipped in favor of the Kneecapper effect, which has a 20% chance to cripple an enemy's legs. However, the Staggering effect in some ways is actually a little bit more interesting due to how it provides a chance to stagger enemies on a hit, which acts as a sort of temporary stun where the enemy can't hit back. The best part is that you can temporarily stun or stagger enemies multiple times in succession, provided you have weapons with a higher rate of fire. And if you have the Commando perk, the Staggering effect's abilities will stack with the improved stagger chance that higher ranks in Commando will provide. So that is something that is definitely beneficial, and is the reason why I would recommend automatics with the Staggering effect as opposed to other weapons. Unfortunately, there aren't any ranged weapons with the exception of the Justice shotgun that you can purchase from Penny and Covenant. While this weapon can be converted to automatic and is compatible with the Commando perk, something with a faster attack speed like an automatic pipe rifle, 10mm pistol, or even something like a automatic handmade rifle or automatic plasma rifle would be a better choice due to their higher fire rate. But I suppose if you can't find something with a higher fire rate, then the Justice shotgun should do quite nicely. Number 5. The minigun. The minigun in Fallout 4 is just awesome. Not only can you use it as a conventional weapon to just hit enemies with a barrage of bullets, but with a shredder customization installed, you can use the minigun almost like you would use a chainsaw, circular saw, or even a ripper. So all in all, the minigun is incredibly versatile both as a conventional heavy weapon as well as for basher type builds. It's sort of difficult to say which style is more fun, however I would say that for your standard minigun, equipping the shredder mod and letting it rip is probably the most entertaining and practical option. Provided you have the basher perk, you can get it to perform criticals fairly frequently, which should allow you to deal a ton of damage with high investment in strength. Alternatively, if you have access to a lot of 5mm ammo and a good legendary variant of the minigun like Explosive, Furious, or Wounding, these can also be pretty fun to use as well due to the crazy amount of damage output you can achieve. Even some of the effects that I discussed earlier, like the Staggering and Kneecapper effects, also work quite well on the minigun due to its massive fiery potential, which allows for more staggers, as well as more chances to cripple an enemy creature's legs. All in all though, the minigun is a great and fun weapon to use. Provided you helped Preston at the very beginning of the game, you should get a non-legendary variant there. Otherwise, be sure to keep an eye out for some legendary variants of the minigun, as they can prove to be incredibly powerful. Number 4. The Power Fist. Maybe it's just me, but I've always really liked the Power Fist type weapons that have appeared in all of the Fallout games, as having a hydraulic ram attached to one's arm is pretty cool. Using these weapons has always been fun, as your punches feel really powerful when they connect with an enemy. And thanks to the Iron Fist perk in Fallout 4, you can paralyze enemies with the Power Fist on VATS criticals, which can prove to be entertaining and incredibly useful depending on the situation. It also doesn't hurt that the Power Fist is the most powerful unarmed weapon in Fallout 4, possessing superior base damage and armor penetration with the puncturing customization equipped. And there's also the fact that the Power Fist is pretty easy to acquire, as you can acquire a Furious Power Fist from Swan provided you defeat him at Swan's Pond in downtown Boston, which at least makes getting your hands on a really nice Power Fist a whole lot easier than many of the other unarmed weapons or even some of the other uniques that are available in Fallout 4. The only sad thing about the Power Fist is that it can't be used with power armor, which is something that I hope that they remedy in future Fallout titles. But if you're looking for a fun weapon and you haven't used the Power Fist yet, you definitely should do so, as it's both an entertaining and phenomenal weapon. Number 3. The Lorenzo's Artifact Gun. As far as uniques go, I think the Lorenzo's Artifact Gamma Gun is one of the more interesting and fun ones to use. This is because the Lorenzo's artifact itself is actually a unique dish/barrel attachment for the Gamma Gun, which can be removed and placed onto any Gamma Gun, including ones with legendary weapon effects. On top of that, and compared to the standard Gamma Gun, the Lorenzo's artifact focuses less on dealing radiation damage and instead deals primarily explosive/area of effect damage. So, much like weapons with the explosive legendary effect, you can deal quite a bit of damage by simply hitting in an enemy's general area. However, I would say the fun part comes in when it comes to the Lorenzo's artifact's knockback abilities, which can allow you to potentially fling enemies pretty far after beating them. This is pretty hilarious to watch. In fact, it's kind of incredible to watch this occur with some of Fallout 4's larger enemies, as you wouldn't think that the Lorenzo's artifact would be able to fling them quite that far. Overall, the Lorenzo's artifact is a pretty powerful and fun weapon to use, and if you want it, you can get it by completing the Secret of Cabot House side quest by siding with Jack Cabot. From there, you'll need to just wait one in-game week, and the artifact is yours. Number 2. The Missile Launcher with Targeting Computer. So, a normal missile launcher in Fallout 4 can be quite frustrating to use. After all, you only get to fire one shot, and there's a pretty good chance that you're going to miss, especially if whatever you're firing at is at a considerable distance. Thankfully, the missile launcher is capable of supporting a targeting computer customization, which allows you to aim the missile launcher at a target, pull the trigger, and then the rocket will home in on an enemy and explode on impact. Obviously, using the targeting computer in this way can prove to be massively entertaining and useful. Not only do you get what are essentially fire-and-forget missiles that help take things out at longer ranges, but it's fun to watch the missiles travel through the air and hit their intended targets. Plus, it also doesn't hurt that the missile launcher deals a ton of damage, and with the right perks, bobbleheads, and perk magazines, you should be able to deal a lot of damage, which is incredibly useful and will pretty much make most enemies in most of the playthroughs very easy to deal with. Ultimately, missile launchers with the targeting computer can be a lot of fun, and I would recommend you acquire one. If you're interested, you can usually acquire a missile launcher from weapons vendors like Arturo or Clio in Diamond City and Good Neighbor respectively, while the targeting computer can be constructed provided you have rank 4 in Gun Nut and rank 2 in the Science perk. And finally, number 1, the Fat Man. I think it's fair to say that the Fat Man has always been a pretty fun weapon to use since the Fallout 3 days. After all, who doesn't like to carry around a powerful atomic launcher that fires, deals a crap ton of damage to enemies, all while spawning a cool-looking mushroom cloud? This is probably one of my favorite weapons to use with VATS because the animation shows you firing the Fat Man, then it follows the mini-nuke through the air until it hits its target. This can be really satisfying to watch and pull off as it's got a really nice cinematic feel to it. Plus, from a functional perspective, the Fat Man already has a really large blast radius, which means that despite the actual hit chance listed, you're probably going to hit whatever you're firing at anyway. Though it's also pretty funny when you miss and things mess up. At the end of the day, the Fat Man is my personal favorite, and I think it's one of the most fun weapons in the game. And if you want one, be sure to either buy one from one of the various weapons vendors, or visit the robotics disposal ground near Sanctuary at the very beginning of the game, where you can get a Fat Man that's just laying there on a bunch of old rusted cars. Alright guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like, click the bell so you can be notified when I upload more videos, and as always, thank you all so much for supporting this channel. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.